There are 7 forts as part of the desert chain of forts: Alexandrion, Doc, Kypros, Herodion, Hyrcania, Makarus, and Masada. Kypros fortress is located about 7 kilometers east of here, overlooking the city of Jericho. Herod the Great built the fortress over a Hasmonean fortress and gave it the name of his mother. Like any structure Herod built on top of an existing structure, he enlarged it and added to it splendor and power. If the water need of the fortress during the Hasmonean dynasty were supplied by local water sources, then the many magnificent pools and baths that Herod added required additional water sources. The beginning of the system of supplying water to Kypros was here in Mabua Spring, in Hebrew named Ein Mabua and in Arabic named Ein Fuar. As for our location, we are in Prat Stream, also known as Wadi Kelt. The Prat Stream descends from northern Jerusalem and empties east of Jericho into the Jordan Valley. The stream route is 30 kilometers long. We are about 8 kilometers west of Jericho and 12 kilometers east of Jerusalem. Of the 3 main springs in Prat Stream, which are Kelt Spring, Mabua Spring, and Prat Spring, Mabua Spring is the most abandoned spring. At the same time, due to its geological structure, there are extreme fluctuation in the amount of water flowing out of it, both during the year and also between years. The Mabua Spring can provide a maximum of 3,000 cubic meters per hour, and in the summer can potentially even dry up. And on an annual basis, it can generate between 2 and 3.5 million cubic meters, a significant amount. But due to the unpredicted amount of water it will provide, it was decided during Herod's reign to add another aqueduct and connect Mabua Spring with Prat Spring, located 6 kilometers west of here. What causes the instability in the amount of water flowing from Mabua Spring? Well, it is a rhythmic spring, meaning a spring that flows intermittently. And this is explained by the diagram. As the water level reaches the high point of the tube, the exit channel, it creates a siphon effect. And the water comes out by gravity due to the connected vessels. The water will come out at once to the point where air enters the tube and breaks the siphon. And by that, the flow stops. The spring will not provide more water until water accumulates again up to the pulse level. In winter, in rainy years, in this spring, the rate of incoming water is such that the water level is constantly higher than the pulse level, and therefore the water flows continuously like a regular spring, and you can actually see it very nicely here. As summer approaches, there is less rain, and the pulse level decreases, and the outcome is that the pulse mechanism goes again into action. Mabua Spring is located 100 meters in altitude above sea level. From here, an open aqueduct carrying its water plus the water from Prat Spring to the underground water reservoir located just below Kypros Fortress at an altitude of 45 meters below sea level. The distance as the crow flies between Mabua Spring and the fortress is just over 7 kilometers, but due to the topography of Wadi Kelt, the length of the aqueduct is doubled, 14 kilometers. To the east, that is toward Jericho, between Mabua Spring and Kel Spring, 4 different aqueducts are placed. The aqueduct I spoke of a minute ago, this is an open aqueduct, originates at Pratt Spring to compensate for the instability of the water flowing here out of Mabua Spring. The second aqueduct is named the Pipe Aqueduct, and I'll explain in a minute. It is located on the south bank, and its target was a water reservoir named Bet Jabbar El Fukani, mostly under the ground, located near the St. George Monastery observation. Today it is actually blocked. The modern aqueduct, built in the early 20th century, that is occasionally located on the south bank, is Kel Spring, and from there it continues to Jericho for irrigation of agricultural land. In addition, there were short local aqueducts in the north bank for irrigation of nearby agricultural land. So Kypros Fort was fed by Mabua Spring, plus the water that was fed from Pratt Spring to Mabua Spring. Regarding the Clay Pipes Aqueduct, this is a water aqueduct from the early Arab period, which for the most part consisted of a pair of adjacent clay pipes. Yet in some short parts, the aqueduct was open. On the steep cliffs, the Pipes Aqueduct is using the aqueduct built by Herod without placing pipe because of the difficult terrain condition that made it impossible to lay and connect the pipes. In the video about Kel Spring, I expand on the largest of the 3 bridges that survived, used for carrying the Tubes Aqueduct, and are all located east of Kel Spring. The aqueduct and the bridge are attributed by archaeologists to the days of the Umayyad Caliphate of the Muslim Empire that ruled the Syrian Israel territory in the 7th and 8th centuries. The Umayyad period was a period of great construction when in this area they built, among other things, the Hisham Palace in Jericho. And finally, as usual, a question for you. There are very few rhythmic springs in Israel and less than 100 in the world. A well-known one is located in Jerusalem and stopped bidding at the beginning of the 20th century and has been behaving like an ordinary spring ever since. What is the name of the spring and what was its purpose in the biblical period? The answer will appear in 5 seconds.